Welcome to this review of The Acolyte episode 4. Now, I'll be straight up with you and say out of all the episodes I've seen so far, this one is perhaps the one I've enjoyed the most. Now, before you start asking, am I okay? Did I take a bump to the head and do I need to have a lie down? For those of you who have seen my earlier reviews, you'll know that this tedious and mind-boggling new adventure into the Star Wars universe hasn't scored very highly with me. In fact, it's been very much scraping the barrel as characters make daft decisions in this show and all sense of logic and reason gets flushed down the toilet in order to move the plot along.
We thought we were doing the right thing.
So the reason I ever so slightly enjoyed this instalment of The Acolyte, however, is because there was at least some attempt to do some character building. Even if those efforts were snuffed out moments later through cheap laughs or dumb advice, or as our leading ladies of Osha and May make rapid, out-of-character changes in direction. But yeah, I will admit there was a couple of moments in this episode that had me paying attention instead of rolling my eyes.
But if it comes to it, and she doesn't listen to me, you need to stop her. I won't be able to do it.
So what got me gripped so much, I hear you ask? Well, let's dive into The Acolyte, episode 4. The show opens with the landscapes of the lush and green forest world of Kofar, where we get our first proper look in this episode at the Wookiee Jedi. This is the same one that was present with Sol, Trinity from The Matrix, and the suicide Jedi guy during the tragedy at the Witch's Temple some 16 years prior. Now this scene is okay, I guess, because, it's a Wookiee Jedi. We've not really seen something like this before, and I know it's just novelty at this stage, but anything new and mildly different in this show is enough to trigger the old dopamine. We see the Wookiee Jedi living his best life under a tree and catch a glimpse of drawings on the wall that look exactly like the ones the witches from episode 3 had on their heads, while curious yet sinister music plays in the background. I wonder what this could all mean. Maybe the Wookiee has abandoned the Jedi teachings and went full send into the thread. Well, yeah. Who knows, because he or she ends up dead before the credits roll anyway. Next, we're back at the Jedi Temple, where we see some students training where Osha and annoying girl Padawan have an awkward conversation which is supposed to convey a blossoming friendship, but just comes across as awkward really and lacking any kind of chemistry whatsoever.
Thank you. For what? For helping me find my sister.
I was just doing my duty.
Don't tell me you'll miss me.
Sir, I protest. I am not a merry man.
I mean, they're talking as if they've been through a whole lot together, but apart from annoying Paddy cornering her sister and letting her get away, we've not seen anything from these two to suggest that they're becoming good friends, but now they're already making plans to crack open some cold ones at a bar, so who knows. Next we see May on Kofar with the chemist guy from the other episode, hunting for the Wookiee Jedi. Of course, May has her agenda to go out and kill 4 Jedi. The Wookiee is the next on the list, and at first May is all like let me at him, and the chemist guy's like,
whoa, I wouldn't just take off if I were you.
Why is this important, I hear you ask? Well, we'll get to that in a minute. Now, by the way, is it me, or is the soundtrack to this show just dreadful? It doesn't seem to have any kind of signature melody or anything, just drab, depressing notes. A show centered around 2 twins could have a really nice melody with slight twists to represent the main characters' similarities and differences. Or at the very least, both Osha and May should have their own signature melodies like Luke, Leia, Rey, Mando. Having a theme just sets the tone and helps single out the main characters from the rest of all the chaos that's going on. So the Jedi meet to discuss May's agenda as they proclaim May could become a major threat. Next, Green Lady Jedi interjects the babblings by giving us some much needed direction, firstly saying how it's odd how May turned up all these years later on the hunt for the 4 Jedi who were present during the entire society's death. I mean, what's odd about that? I think it's pretty bloody obvious at this point that May wants revenge because she's not mature enough to own up to her own mistakes of burning everything and everyone to the ground and blames it on the Jedi.
How odd.
Then she explains how May turns up all of these years later trained by one of our own, quote unquote, implying it was a Jedi. But wait, wasn't May absolutely against the Jedi in the first place? In the previous flashback episode, she was so anti-Jedi, she ended up killing everyone. But, why didn't Sol chime in at this point and say, hang on, love, you've got it all wrong. May despised the Jedi, so for her to be trained by one doesn't add up. They deliberate whether to inform the High Council or not, but Green Lady Jedi says they shouldn't do to avoid spreading fear in the Senate. I mean, seriously, if an elite government agency suddenly lost 2 agents in the field who were murdered during peacetime, you'd think people in charge would want to know about it. Like Jedis are being murdered in public by someone conspiring with passers-by and kids, and conducting her business in front of people in bars. Word of this is bound to get out, isn't it? So what does she do? She orders this plank of wood to extract the Wookiee Jedi and intercept May. So they know exactly where she is all this time and where she's headed. Why didn't she send Sol when he was already hot on her trail in an earlier episode? Why not send a message to the Wookiee Jedi, give them a heads up that a murderer is making a beeline for them? Then she adds that she doesn't expect May to put up a fight. Seriously, she's killed 2 Jedi, she's escaped a trap and created a whole load of mess in her wake. What makes you think for a second she's going to come quietly?
Master Holden, extract Kalnaka from his post on Kofar and intercept May.
And if she doesn't come peacefully?
Not expecting it to come to that.
Then she gets right up in Sol's face, asking him why he didn't tell her about May and the possibility she could be alive. Did Sol and the other 3 Jedi not write a report about what happened? I mean, literally 100 or so people burned to death. An entire society died, apparently. Did they not return to the Jedi Order and say, look guys, some stuff went down and we need to get it off our chests? Next we see May on the hunt for the Wookiee Jedi again and drops in the line,
"Can't believe my sister's Jedi scum."
Where's the deep-rooted emotional feelings in all this? Her delivery is so casual, it's laughable, but her sister is alive and that in itself should stir up all sorts of questions. Where has Osha been all this time? Why is she helping the Jedi? Does she blame me for what happened to our mothers? Nah.
Can't believe my sister's Jedi scum.
Next, Osha bumps into Sol, who wants her to come on the wild goose chase to intercept May and use her as bait. At first, Osha doesn't want to help, saying May is a murderer.
Sol, I can't. She's a murderer.
And Sol reminds her she's still her family. Now, I like this moment. It's probably the first time in the entire series I felt like some genuine character building was going on, and then Sol reminds her that she's the only family she's got. And I'm sure that we can all relate to this. Everyone's had family troubles, but deep down we know our family is family, and it's the only one we've got. And then the moment's ruined when Sol says,
"There is still good in her."
He's only ever met her once, and that was at the temple before it burned down. How does he know who she is and whether there's good in her? It's like the writers needed something Star Warsy to say and just threw it in. Next, a platoon of Jedi and a terribly animated beaver travel on a ship to go get May. If you were being used as bait to lure your murderous and obviously more powerful twin out into the open, wouldn't you be bricking it right now? Compare this scene...
Very comprehensive briefing, Yord.
...and tone to something like this.
Shuttle Tidarium requesting deactivation of the deflector shield.
Vader's on that ship.
Now don't get jittery, Luke.
This would have been the perfect opportunity to give us some insight as to how Osha feels towards her sister, and whether she regrets quitting being a Jedi, and maybe if she'd stayed on she could be the one to stop her. So the Jedi land on the planet where the Wookiee is hiding. Osha then has another promising moment where she speaks to Yord, asking for his help should May go mental and kick off. Yord says he trusts Sol's plan and that he's known Osha since she was young, and perhaps this is not only about confronting her sister, but also confronting herself. As basic and as clunky as it was, I like this moment between Osha and Yord. It actually tried to build something between the two and give us a bit of meat to chew on in terms of their friendship. I mean, even though he's been the butt of everyone's jokes up until now, and I wouldn't be surprised if he told Osha to stick it, he comes across as an almost caring person and proves that when this annoying little douche isn't around putting him down, he can come across as a pretty insightful chap. I also like how Osha admits that she's afraid and needs Yord's help. It gives us a reason to root for her, so all in all this little moment was a win in this episode. Then Osha shows remorse for leading to the death of the bug, which gives us another glimmer of growth in her character. She felt something when she touched it, but disturbing the bug led to its death. And then straight away, annoying Padawan says,
"It's always an honour to get to witness anything or anyone transform into the Force."
She literally totally dismissed her remorse and basically said,
If he dies, he dies.
Osha admits the reason she quit the Jedi is because she couldn't accept what she'd lost, plus the resentment she felt for her sister. Again, this is another juicy bit of insight, to which annoying Padawan replies, "We're not defined by what we lose, we're defined by what we survive." Ugh, that's like saying, if I survive eating this sweaty kebab, that defines me. I always thought it was,
It's not who I am underneath.
but what I do that defines me.
If annoying Padawan had said something like, yeah, it sucks, but soon you're going to come face to face with your sister for the first time in 16 years since your mother's died, because of her. It's not what you've lost that defines who you are, but what you do in the face of that loss. Fair enough, you cut and ran from the Jedi because of how you felt, but now, in this forest, you might have a chance to redefine who you are. But nah.
We're defined by what we survive.
So suck it up. May tells the chemist guy that she doesn't have to go through with any of it and declares that she'll surrender herself to the Wookiee and turn herself in. So hang on. At the start of this episode, she was marching off the ship and ready to kill some Wookiee. And then all of a sudden, for no real reason as to why, she changes her tune entirely and wants to hand herself in. Did I miss something? She was literally cursing her sister, but now...
After running through that forest for an extremely long time, I realized something. Osha being alive changes everything. My loyalty is to Osha, not your master. What I'm going to do is surrender myself to Kelnaka, and then turn myself into the Jedi.
Next we see Saul staring beyond the camera again. Let's really milk this shot a few times, eh? Osha then declares she's ready to face May and also feels things again. Like 2 minutes ago, she was fearing for her life, asking Yor to step in, showing some glimmer of struggle and weakness, but now she's ready to take on the galaxy after touching a bug and getting some dumb wisdom from annoying Padawan character. Next, May discovers the Wookiee is already dead and realises her master is already here, leading to one of the better scenes in the series so far. Not so much for the action, but just the way it's shot and how the master doesn't actually say anything to ruin the moment. It just slowly approaches in a shot very reminiscent of the Alien Covenant film, which yeah, the movie itself blew terribly, but the scene always put me on edge, and this moment in the Acolyte had my attention. Finally, a quick flick of the finger and a force push, and we cut to black, and there you have it, episode 4 done. For me, this instalment of the Acolyte had a few wins and a few losses, where some promising moments were sadly outweighed by another load of terrible dialogue, awkward back and forths, and unjustified flips in character that left me scratching my head. Osha had a few moments where she showed weakness, alluded to the loss of her family, the resentment toward her sister, and the reasons why she quit the Jedi, only to have them redacted by terrible advice, weird attempts at humour, and random changes in character that didn't add up. May also went full send on changing direction and decided for no major reason that she's better off just turning herself in, despite her actions from the very first scene of this series saying otherwise. Up until now, May has been the lead antagonist in this series, and without her tearing up Jedi, it just leaves the Masked One to act as the force of evil our heroes must overcome. As for Soul, Green Lady, and the rest of the Unforgettables, they just plod along saying lots of dumb things and making dumb decisions under the guise of being wise and all-knowing.
How odd.
Nah, it's not really, love. You're just an idiot. Anyway, what did you think of the Acolyte episode 4? Drop a comment below, say hello. Until next time.